Are you really ready?
I'm always ready.
You didn't bring coffee. You don't look ready.
I am ready. I'm all caffeinated up.
You're caffed up and ready?
Mm-hmm.
Super ready.
Indeed.
All right. Oh, hold on. You get to hear us. Hey, you sound loud today. All right, cool. I don't need this.
That's good. That's good.
Good. Okay.
Everybody can hear us today.
Now that we've gotten the banter portion out of the way, and now that our viewers are in, I suppose we should go. So we'll do that. Oh, that's my job.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Unauthorized Caucus. It is Thursday, it is noon, and it is caucus time. We have a good one today, but before we dive into that, actually, we've obviously, you can tell we're serious. We both have laptops today with notes. So let this be the first reminder. Go ahead. It's going to be a good one. Like, share, and subscribe wherever you are. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. If you're on Rumble, hit the big green button that's subscribe. Share the link with a friend, hit the retweet, share on Facebook in a message, pop it in an email. You can even print out a screenshot and fax it to someone. Just let them know you're watching this conversation, and they should too, because these are the conversations conservatives need to be having amongst each other, especially as we get into the 2024 election cycle. One of the ways you could do that in person with us, I'll remind you, when you go to phyllisschlafly.com, make sure you sign up for the email list. Not only do you get this notification, you're going to get all of our notes afterward, which that email just keeps building a little bit more each time. But you can do this in person with us, quite possibly. Next weekend, actually, not this weekend, next weekend, September 15, 16, and 17 here in St. Louis, Eagle Council 52. We've still got some spots available. So if you would like to come, you can do that. And you don't just have to register for the whole weekend. If you can't make that commitment, there are specific highlight portions, some dinner and lunch programs, certain speakers and panels. We are putting all of that at eaglecouncil.com, and that is where you can also sign up to get tickets, not just for the whole weekend if you'd like that kind of registration, but for individual segments if that's all you can make it to, or what you'd really like to come to. Invite your friends. We try to make it worthwhile and affordable as we go into those different sections. So go to eaglecouncil.com, go to phyllisschlafly.com. You'll see a button there. When you sign up for the email list, make sure you go and look at the Eagle Council page too. There's space left, and we would love for you, our fellow caucusers. Is it caucusers?
Is that what we call our fan army?
Caucusi? Is that the plural? Caucusi? Our fan army?
Yeah.
Do we have a fan?
Yeah, that's all the people watching right now.
I'm not sure about the fan army thing. We'll let the fan army people sound off. I'm going to make sure I get my Rumble chat open. But go there, phyllisschlafly.com, sign up for the email list, and also eaglecouncil.com, you can sign up to come and join us. We would love to have you there. More coffee. All right, the chat section has come alive, and we are ready to get rolling. So with all of that said, what are we going to talk about today, Mason?
We're talking about the Defamation League.
The Defamation League.
Yes. Well, the technically they call themselves the Anti Defamation League, but that has become quite dubious as of late. A bit of a misnomer. So yeah, if you've been on X this last week or so, this really started to kick off over the last weekend with the hashtag ban the ADL starting to trend, which is pretty big. That's a pretty big deal, especially when Elon Musk himself was getting involved with this conversation and retweeting people and responding to people, and seems to be something he's actually interested in. That's not something you usually see Elon. And when people call for somebody to ban somebody, A, it usually doesn't trend, and B, Elon doesn't usually get involved. But to understand this story, it requires us really to go all the way back to when Elon was first buying Twitter, when it was still known as Twitter. And make sure you sign up on the email list, because there's going to be a lot of links coming out today. We're going to have all the sources, all the receipts for everything we're talking about today.
My tabs. I can't even read my tabs. They're so small. It has shrank them down to where I can't read shrunk. They're so tiny. Yep. There's not even words anymore. I can't tell.
Yeah, so we are going to be going over all of the sins of the ADL, if we can even possibly do that, because there are so many. But this kicked off when Elon was first buying Twitter it looks like on November 4th of last year. The ADL tweeted, "Today we are joining dozens of other groups to ask advertisers to pause Twitter spending because we are profoundly concerned about anti-Semitism and hate on the platform. Here's why we're asking advertisers to hashtag stop hate for profit and hashtag stop toxic Twitter." So when a big organization like this, a very reputable organization as many see it, says, okay, we should boycott this thing, big brands are going to be like, okay, let's pull our advertising campaigns off of Twitter and let's stop advertising there. Which obviously led to a revenue loss. So that's where the story really begins. And I'm sure that from the very beginning, Elon was kind of had an understanding of, okay, these people are working against my interests. They're working against this platform. And they're people that I'm sure he's interacted with, just because the ADL interacts very closely with the executives of every social media organization. But when this really started to kind of light fire was over this last weekend, when this guy named Keith Woods, who's like a philosopher YouTube channel guy. I've never really watched his stuff, but I've followed him on Twitter for some time, and I think he's Irish. He started tweeting out, the ADL lists 83, which means Hail Christ, as a hate symbol. The 8 being the H, which is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and the 3 being C for Christ. And
you want to talk about a stretch?
Yeah, it's.
I don't know. I see some weird stuff on the internet, and I've never seen that one, except from them.
Yeah,
never.
It's quite ridiculous, especially considering that, some people are like, oh, you say hail, you're talking about like so certain German regimes that weren't exactly doing the best things last century, but that is not always the application of such a word. I mean, any Catholic will know that the Hail Mary is a pretty common Catholic prayer, and saying Hail Christ is pretty normal thing. You don't hear it a ton or as much, but I mean, it's a normal thing to say. It's like saying glory to Christ or praise Christ, etc. So
it's definitely side commentary. They are definitely an organization in search of a boogeyman everywhere. It's very similar to a lot of these other ones that are, different letters, same goal.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Keith Woods started pushing this out there, and somebody named Elijah Schaefer did too. I don't exactly know. I think he's with Gateway Pundit.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Yes. So they both started sharing this and sharing with the hashtag #BanTheADL, which is what started trending last weekend. And Elon picked up on this, and he started responding to Keith's tweets, or Zeets, or X posts, whatever you want to call them.
Zeets.
That's the president of China, right?
Well, it was XI. This is just X. I don't know what we do.
Anyways, so yeah, Elon got involved in the conversation, and he started, looking at things, and he'd obviously had this fact that the ADL was responsible for a lot of Twitter's losses in the back of his head for a while now. And so he put forward the proposition of that he is thinking about suing the Anti Defamation League specifically for defamation, which is hilarious in its own right. And he cheekily pointed that out, pointing out the irony of it when he announced that he was considering this. But Elon tweeted, this was September 6th, so this was yesterday. Yeah, he tweeted, Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO of the ADL. Jonathan at ADL kicked off a massive Twitter boycott campaign less than a week after the acquisition closed. Literally nothing had changed about the site. Our US revenue is still 60% down from that capacity, but slowly improving. So essentially, saying that somebody is an anti-Semite is a pretty hefty accusation, and this goes back to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago with the power of language, and people being afraid of these terms like racist, Islamophobe, etc. An anti-Semite is way up there with these powerful labels you can put on somebody to start to control them. But it's also a term that has meaning. It means that somebody doesn't like Semitic or Jewish people. So if that's not true, that somebody doesn't actually have these distastes towards these people groups, then it's a lie. And if it's a lie that causes somebody to lose profits in their business, and their totally legitimate business, then they can be legally responsible for lying. And that's defamation. That's the definition of defamation. So Elon wants to investigate through the courts the amount of losses that Twitter has been faced with, the amount of Twitter's losses that can be drawn back to the responsibility of the ADL and their defamation towards him.
And I think that this is a good. The reason we talked about this, you've just described why it's in the news, what has brought it about. But I think that the reason this is relevant for conservatives, particularly, to talk about, all of us know the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC. This one is kind of a known entity to us, as
they have a page on us.
They do, yes. Yeah. We've made it to SPLC, to Right Wing Watch, to Media Matters. I believe we have a presence on all of them. Neither you or I by name yet. We're still working on our status.
And after this, we might make it onto the ADL.
It's quite possible. Let's say it again: Right Wing Watch, Media Matters, Crazy. We'll just throw them all in a line. No, but the SPLC, unlike Media Matters, Right Wing Watch, which put themselves out there as media, political organizations. They admit it. SPLC and ADL, the Alliance Defending Freedom. Sorry, that I didn't like it when they came out and named that ADF, because I'm like, that's really close to a thing that we don't like. Let's not do this. The Anti Defamation League. These have been around for a long time, and unfortunately, ADL, SPLC, they have put themselves up as these above politics at a different, higher moral level, and they've gotten this reputation for decades, for almost a century plus. But that's not how they function. They function essentially as nonprofit political branches of the left, because it's all focused on hate speech. It's all very focused, again, even though it's in the name of something good. Anti-Semitism is wrong. Racism is wrong. These are wrong things, but you have taken and adopted that, and now all that you do is pick on right-wing organizations and, quite frankly, create conspiracies with which you may then hurt or harm or shut down these other right-wing organizations. And I don't mean that negatively. I just mean people on that side of the political spectrum versus people on this side. I'm not using that one in a derogatory term, just so everyone's clear what I mean. And going after ADL is going after the church itself. Like, this group is on par with so many others that I think are more notable to many of us. And we need to know, as conservatives, these folks are in that same world. And they're causing a lot of trouble for anyone who, like Elon Musk, this whole thing. Elon Musk is no right winger. But Elon Musk apparently, and I would say so far, not provably, but our experience so far is that Elon Musk does have an understanding of and a commitment to free speech. Even if there's not what I would do, it's still like, this is an important value to him, not the censorship of the left. And anyone kind of moves that direction, boom, here comes the ADL, here comes the SPLC to boycott, to harm, to shut down that organization that's just moving from the left a little bit back toward the middle, maybe even at most is how you could describe it. But that is unacceptable because it does not toe the line. These organizations do not represent high level general moral causes. They represent a very highly politically tax exempt arm of the left, political tax exempt arm of the left. And we all need to be abundantly clear on that as we see these headlines and kind of interpret, well, what is the ADL? Let this be not just to inform you on the news this week, but let this discussion also kind of drive that home. Oh, this is one of those groups, but not to just lump them into the group. Understand where they come from, what do they do, what are they connected to? So we thought this was a really important conversation to have, to move that part forward as well, so that we're all understanding of exactly where they've come from, but who they are now and what it functions as. So.
But yeah, and I think
you don't tell me you just slowed up there. Did we exhaust all of our stuff in 16 minutes?
I don't even know where to go next. There's so much stuff. I mean, I guess we might as well just.
Well, let's talk about something. So I think everyone at this point knows, and I want you to dive off into this. Everyone at this point knows that the Southern Pop connection. And Ed has talked about this before. I'm actually going to go find this because I'd really like to bring up his What You Need to Know from that Pro America Report radio show that day. He talked about the really awful public-private connection. And he was referring to the FBI essentially using the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate list, who they, the political left, have decided are hate groups, which we don't even have time probably in a whole podcast to go into how hate speech is fake anyway. But right. I digress. The FBI uses the Southern Poverty Law Center's list and all kinds of stuff to come up with investigations. This came out of Richmond, Virginia, right? With this, with the church and a couple of different things. Like, there's a huge connection. This is dangerous. They're relying on private political institutions to drive a law enforcement agency's investigation list at the federal level. How dangerous is that? Well, guess what? There's a lot of really weirdo and interesting connections too between the ADL and some other ones. This is where we had our cutesy little thing. We always talk about the alphabet agencies and bureaucracies. There's a list of alphabet organizations too, and there's some dastardly connections between the two. So ADL falls into that camp. You had some interesting stuff you pulled up about this. You want to bring that to bear?
Yeah. So the ADL has a whole page on their website about partnering with law enforcement, and they've made some tweets in the past about how they provide constitutional education training to FBI agents. I think all FBI agents have some degree of training from the Anti Defamation League specifically. So I mean that really says a lot. But even on top of that, this guy on X named Kyle Undercover, or at Kyle is based, Um, quite the funny name, but he said, I gathered property records for 19 different states that the ADL has a regional office established. The report reveals that in the state of Connecticut, the ADL shares an office space with the FBI. They also have an office space with the United Nations in New York. And then he goes further. After reviewing the 19 offices, we can see an alarming trend. 63% of the ADL's regional offices are located within various banking institutions. 42% are located within various law firms, ranging from immigration to criminal law. And I think that really goes to show that these people are deeply enmeshed with the system and controlling how people think, what they say. I mean, the FBI thing is huge. I mean, that's like, if
it's more than that, though.
Yeah, if you said that we shared an office space with, some organization, you would assume that we have some connection to that organization, that we at least know who those people are, and sometimes might even work with them. So, and when it's something, and when there's already the connection made that the ADL trains the FBI, it's like, okay, these people are, a walk down a hallway away from one another. So really what the ADL says is probably just going to go for the FBI. Which makes me...
Well, by the way, someone says down here, Velveteen Rabbit on Rumble says, how many until it's no longer a coincidence? I'd say we're far past coincidence with that tweet alone, which again, it's a tweet. I mean, go and verify it. We'll post a link here, and I'm sure that I'll actually see if this guy put the research out, the actual property records, but we're far past the coincidence label now. So
right. I mean, yeah, it's from the horse's mouths themselves. They're like, we aren't training the FBI. We work with law enforcement directly to stamp down hate speech. So, and I think it's important to talk about what some of the crazy cases of what they consider hate speech. I mean, if you go to their website and look at their hate symbols, I mean, a lot of these, it's like, okay, that's fair. This is the symbol of some sort of like white prison gang, and these are clearly bad people, the bad guys in Breaking Bad, those types of people, and the things that they say. Obviously, these things, they are hateful. We don't want to endorse them. Nobody should be endorsing them. But then there's also things that they are going after that seem much more okay, that seem normal, that seem Christian. So some examples of that is the ADL had an article in June of 2007 about how the Orthodox Church's liturgy is anti-Semitic, which is, strange. I mean, that's just a sect of Christianity, just the liturgy that they practice on Sunday and other days of the week whenever they might have Mass. They also talk about how Latin Mass is a cause for concern. They also talked about this in July of 2007. And maybe that had something to do with, there was this FBI report, or somebody reported on the FBI sending people to infiltrate Latin Mass parishes across the United States. Maybe that had some connection there. Wouldn't be surprising in this situation. The Passion of the Christ by Mel Gibson relies on a theme of anti-Semitism. The ADL said this in January of 2004, which is near when the movie came out. Which, if you haven't seen The Passion of the Christ, I think most people at least know what it is. It is the story of our Lord Jesus Christ's passion on the cross, and it's the core of the Christian story, and a pretty faithful depiction of it. So accusing that the core of the Christian story is anti-Semitic, that's labeling essentially all of Christianity to be anti-Semitic.
Let's just the full Monty. The next thing that there was, Jesus the Jew is anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Like it, but yeah, it runs.
Yeah, man.
It runs down the rabbit hole really quick of nuttiness.
Right. And we already talked about 83, Hail Christ, being an anti-Semitic slogan, which I think it's really funny, because if you go to their hate list, the first page is all the numerical stuff. 17%, about 17 numbers out of the first 100 numbers, 1 through 100, 17% of those are hate symbols, which, excuse me. If you are a first grade teacher teaching children how to count, you better watch out, because you might be teaching these kids some hate symbols. It is absurd. It's actually absurd.
And here we were just worried about the gender ideology, but it's white supremacy too.
Yeah, white supremacy.
Little did we know.
In the basic arithmetic, before you even get to adding. Anyways, so yeah, this, it's kind of strange that these people are they're labeling fundamental aspects of different Christian denominations or Christianity as a whole as hateful and anti-Semitic, and these are hate symbols. And You know, they also have a page on there was that trend a few years ago, the "It's okay to be white" thing, where somebody on some college campus put up those posters. I think this was recently after one of the Black Lives Matter protests.
Right.
Just it's okay to be white, not anything crazy, not even white lives matter, none of the super crazy racist like anti-minority type stuff. It just literally the phrase "it's okay to be white." You know, we don't have to feel bad for just being who we are, the way we were born, the color of our skin. And they're like, okay, that's a hate symbol, hate on display. That's literally what it says on the website, hate on display, which is
By the way, it's the glossary of it is the glossary of hate. What do they call it? The glossary of extremism. The ADL has publishes the glossary of extremism. This is one of our goals to get on. You know, if we're doing our jobs effectively, teaching the truth, as we've obviously seen about just normal things, then we should end up on the glossary of extremism. This is a goal by the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, that means you're a sane person
for the caucus,
holds good values.
Yeah, well, at least normal, who doesn't just buy into nonsense from one completely political side. Which let me do this. You talk a little bit about some of this stuff. One of the realms that I'd like to get into, which really starts to betray. I mean, some of this, when you look at their list of what they call anti-Semitic or what they call hate speech, it really doesn't pass the common sense factor. But then you don't need to apply hardly common sense and logic anymore once you look at their list of actions, who they're going after. When you actually open up the glossary terms of extremism, it's absolutely incredible. So one of my favorites, first of all, the number one thing, which kind of one of the things that Elon got into as the ADL was pushing hard for a boycott of Twitter, of X, now Twitter at the time, one of the big things they were gunning for the Libs of TikTok account, which, if you're not familiar, you should go familiarize yourself. Libs of TikTok, of course, just someone who started anonymously grabbing crazy lefty TikToks and posting them on all of their social media accounts. And it's like, I don't even have to tell you, this is just from the horse's mouth, from the teacher in the classroom telling them, I'm trying to change. Don't talk to your parents about gender. Talk to me. Like crazy stuff that we're saying they said, but you don't have to listen to us anymore. Here it is. That's all it was. This person did it anonymously and fought to keep their anonymity, as I recall. Finally, it was blown off. Turns out it's a young lady named, was Kaya Rychik? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Kaya Rychik, I think.
Yeah,
Kaya,
right.
it's a CH, Kaya Rychik. It's a Jewish lady. A practicing Orthodox Jew is the one who runs Libs of TikTok. And after this fact is known,
anti-Semite,
the ADL goes after her for this. And that was one of the things Elon Musk actually got into the discussion and said they're pushing hard to shut down accounts like Kaya's account. And it has nothing to do, the account has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. And also the account holder is an Orthodox Jew. I fail to see where you're involved in this situation. How do you even have a say here? And yet they pushed very hard and somewhat successfully on different platforms to shut down Libs of TikTok, even though we very quickly discovered who it was behind it and kind of shut down any of the anti-Semitic white power arguments. Those were all completely gone and out the window. But it didn't stop there. One of my other favorite examples to pull up is Ari Hoffman, who some of you may have heard about. I know he was a big name for a little while, running for the Seattle City Council. And he had death threats against him on 8chan or 4chan, I forget which. And the police actually came and tried to get a hold of him. He was on holiday, though, and wasn't there, didn't have his phone on him. I forget. It wasn't just typical Sabbath. It was some Jewish holiday. So he was gone for like 2-3 days. And when he got back, found out from the police, hey, you've had a death threat against you. We're taking it seriously. We want to make sure you're okay. We're checking out on this because it's this, fairly not completely left-wing guy. I'm pretty sure he's a right-winger running for Seattle City Council. And they pushed and pushed and pushed the Anti Defamation League. And it took them 5 days to finally put out a real lame sauce. Oh, well, this is very concerning that someone would threaten a Jew running for political office. They didn't want to do it. You know why? It's not about anti-Semitism. It was a right-winger. So you're off of our list. It is so patently obvious when you look at their actions, not just the craziness of what they label. They're a political organization.
Right.
They are a left-wing political organization. It has absolutely nothing to do with the greater good or with hate speech. Again, I digress, wanting to talk about fake hate speech in America. But their actions speak for themselves. They have no concern for anyone on the right wing. In fact, they have disdain for everyone on the right wing, including practicing Jews running for leadership in office. None of that matters because you're not the left wing. It's a left wing organization, hands down. And I mean, I know we're kind of preaching to the choir here, but facts matter. Like, we need to all understand the names, the actions, the timeline, the history. I mean, we sit here in this library. It's not just that we understand communism is bad. Phyllis Schlafly wanted to make sure that we had, at her personal expense, volumes and volumes and shelves of exactly why communism is bad, why it failed, how it failed, what they did, so that we never let it happen again. It's very important to understand all of these things. So even though it's kind of preaching to the choir, I feel like, you know, these are the things that we need to cover, because I always hear everyone talk about SPLC, but I hardly ever hear anyone bring up the Anti Defamation League, because it kind of hides behind this shroud of, well, of course anti-Semitism is bad. It is bad, but these people don't stand for anti-Semitism. That's not even remotely close to what they're about. And oh, by the way, they're tied into big bank, big finance, big corporations, big government. They literally reside in the same buildings and the same offices with these power players. They are a part of the system, and we all need to understand it. So someone's asking, Gwen is asking on YouTube, is the ADL anti-Jew? I would tend to say so, as long if
well, it depends on their political beliefs.
I'm not going to say it. I had something I'm not going to say, but yeah, if their political beliefs don't fit, then yes, they're anti-Jew.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if Ben Shapiro was in trouble, they would not come to his defense, even if it was like actual Nazis going after Ben Shapiro. But because it's they care about the ethnicity when it's somebody on the left with them. I mean, it's kind of like the Biden thing. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. It's like you only get to play your race card if you fall in with their liberal worldview. And if you don't, then go to the wolves.
Right.
They'll leave you to the wolves. So I would say that they're not anti-Jew. They're just anti-right-wing Jew, or semi-conservative Jew, or centrist, like in the case of Dave Rubin. I'm pretty sure he's of Jewish descent, but
are you just going off of the name?
No, I think I've read that before.
You're just going off the name, aren't you?
No, I guarantee. Okay, you know what? I'm pretty sure that Dave Rubin is of Jewish descent, but he's a centrist. But I don't think the ADL would come to his defense, because he's not a foaming at the mouth leftist that wants to just like absolutely destroy society and push transgenderism on children. So yeah, and they'll even come to the defense of non-Jews, Gentiles, regardless.
His name is David Joshua Rubin, so it's a high likelihood. We're running down that opportunity for him to be of Jewish descent. I'm not sure. I'm looking. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm curious now. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, but if you're on the left, they don't really care what ethnicity you are. So, the goal of their organization is specifically to fight anti-Semitism, but it's only ever anti-Semitism towards people on their side. So, yeah. Yeah, that answers that question.
Oh yeah, and let me see here. I'm filing through. Anti Defamation League defames. They do. There's more than one reference to Orwell down here. The power of words to affect thought, changing the meaning of words. Absolutely. And someone's been reading. Where was this? Were we on YouTube or Rumble? I'm trying to keep track of both here, because all y'all are getting really active in there. Which by the way, we have a surprise from one of our Rumble contributors down here, but not until it comes in the mail are we going to reveal the surprise to you. You know what's going on.
Stay tuned.
But stay tuned. Here we were over on YouTube. Someone, Love Horses over on YouTube, has been reading, I believe, the news and notes that comes out every Wednesday, which you only get if you're on the Phyllis Schlafly email list. But we pull out a great select little quip or quote, from Phyllis. Some good nugget of wisdom. And she pulled one out that I remember having. I say she, he, I forget. We've had this discussion before.
I think
I think we've had this discussion before. It's been a while. We've been doing this a while now, but we've had this discussion. You pulled out one, though, of my favorites that I remember putting in news and notes a little while ago. Unless conservatives, a Phyllis Schlafly quote, unless conservatives rekindle their faith in ultimate victory and their courage to act no matter what the odds, they will continue to play the role of Hamlet in American politics. I love it.
Yeah.
That was a good one, which is why, I mean, that to me defines why we have these conversations. We have to understand what's going on, understand why it matters, get the will to fight it, the camaraderie to do it and the help, because doing it alone stinks. Like, you can't get out there and just pound away every day on your own, but
Right.
It'll wear down on you. But yeah, that's a good one. I wanted to share that before I forgot and it moved past. She,
I knew it.
hearts and a she, her, you forgot her, she, her is what you're supposed to say nowadays. Love horses. No, I'm kidding. We don't go into that here. What do we tell people? Our pronouns are patriot, rabble, rouser, and yours are conspiracy theorist. As a conspiracy theorist, your pronouns are told you so. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or always correct.
Always correct.
I'll use
there
those
you go.
as well.
We've got some good ones. Rabble and rouser. That's what I said last time.
Rabble
My pronouns are rabble and rouser. Oh man. But yeah, there's this is, I think, one in the same, cut from the same cloth as the SPLC and this host of organizations that we're already familiar with. But I feel like the ADL just kind of floats under the radar. And thank you to Elon Musk for actually meeting them head on. And I guess thank you to the ADL for attacking Twitter right after someone bought it who has more money than he has desire to stay under the radar.
And to Keith Woods, who's been hammering on this nonstop.
Yeah,
since...
and there's a lot of people doing a lot of research out there that, again, like we've got a bunch of tweets that I'm going to put in there. But let me put the basic blanket statement over all of this. There's a lot of really interesting stuff on the internet, including some of these tweets that I'll go ahead and post. They must be verified, not just by us, but by you too. Go and find it. Find the person who's posting this and then look for their research. Find their sources. Sources are king. We got to know these things. But there's a lot of stuff at our fingertips. So we're not, this is not a complete moral endorsement when we send you a link. It's a very interesting information that we all ought to verify and log it away in the context of this whole conversation. So just to make sure you all have a blanket statement. Don't just trust us like we don't just trust people on Twitter or X. When they zeet things. Zeet? Can we just land on zeet?
Yeah, zeet.
Zeet. When they zeet things, the zeets need deets. We need to know the sources. Sorry, that was bad. I'm a dad. But really, this is a whole big section that I think is thank you to the ADL for attacking Twitter, and thank you to Elon Musk for saying, who are you? Let's go to court. I think that the ADL is kind of finally coming out of the shadows and getting onto people's radar as the political behemoth that it is. Not just, the protector of Jewish people across the world, because they're not. Absolutely, they're not. Not right-wing Jews, not Jews that don't matter to them. They are the protector of a left-wing agenda. And I would argue that not just the protector of it, but a hammer that drives it forward. So I think that that's kind of up in the news this week and deserves a much bigger look at the background, the history, the context, which hopefully we've been able to do some of that here today. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have anything to put a button on that? We got a lot of links that are going to come for reading for your enjoyment later. But I want to make sure we cover everything here. Let me look here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've hit on most of the big things I had. I mean, I could go on forever about the sins of the ADL.
Yeah. Because they're commies. That one hits deep. What hits deep?
Everything
I don't know.
We're saying.
Everything we're saying.
Well, I did see.
T-Rex Inc. says that one hits deep, but we don't know what one that one is. So ADL, SPLC, ACLU, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, the ACLU. Yeah. We didn't even mention.
Forgot about them.
The kings of this whole left-wing nuttiness inside the nonprofit world. The ACLU. Oh dear. Right. See, that's the thing. Everyone knows to roll their eyes at the ACLU. I think at this point, everyone knows to roll their eyes at the SPLC, but the ADL. To the point of how I just said that. These are so normal to me. I just rolled off the letters and we know which one it is. But a lot of people don't know and don't connect the dots, and we got to be the ones to help them.
Right.
The quote that I shared. Yeah, that one does hit deep. It's good. It's a very good one. So that's that. And again, coming out of this, we are 100%. And yeah, love, by the way, Love Horses wants everyone to know that she doesn't just identify, but in fact is a Christian wife, mom, and a homemaker. And we're men, and she appreciates us. So
epic.
There you go. Epic. Based, as we say on the internet nowadays, as the kids are saying. Well, they're not saying it on TikTok, but we ought to get more of that. So
I'm sure there's some on there. But
oh boy.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that ADL, think that's a good
put
place.
Us on your list. Put us on your list. Hail Christ.
Yeah.
Hail Christ. That's what we say.
83. Or whatever, however we get on the glossary of extremism, feel free to put us there.
Is there a way to do like 83 as a hand symbol? 8-3.
I don't know. Not really into hand symbols. I'm a country boy, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, Thanks for joining us for this caucus. Don't forget, go over to philschlafly.com, sign up for the email so that you don't miss the giant email full of links that I have coming to you this afternoon. And if you do or don't miss that and you want it in person, come to Eagle Council. You still can. We got space. And you can also email us too. So go to philschlafly.com and sign up. Go to eaglecouncil.com and get a ticket. See the official list there. I think we're going to actually be putting the names of our speakers and the program together here so that you can see the entire layout of what it's looking like, although some of it is up there, flyers for each of the meals, so you know who's speaking when, what topics we're going to cover. And then, of course, as always, like and share and subscribe wherever you're watching this. Please, thank you for being in the chat. Make sure to comment afterward and let people know you're watching it. Hop in there and share the link so that others can see it. We would love to have that exposure for this information, and we would love to have that interactivity that we can be a part, and you can be a part with us, of making sure we inform and equip and motivate people. So go and do those things, and then we will be back for another Unauthorized Caucus next week. It's going to be an interesting week. It'll be crunch time. We may just talk about council. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be in the midst of some very busy things. But if you need something in the meantime, reach out to us. info@philschlafly.com, Ryan Mason at philschlafly.com. You'll get a hold of us. And we will look forward to seeing you next Thursday at noon for another very, very unauthorized caucus, all about all of the things. We'll pick another topic to try to get us on some lists.
Yep. See y'all next